good evening, and welcome, however you found your way here tonight, and wherever in the world you happen to be. I'm really glad you came. Maybe you're already in bed, with the blankets warm around you, and the room gone quiet. Maybe you're at the end of a long and tiring day, or lying awake somewhere far from home, in the small hours when almost everyone else has already drifted off. Before we begin, I'd love to know one small thing. Where in the world are you listening from tonight? If you feel like it, leave a little note below to say hello and let us know where you are. There is something rather lovely in the thought of so many people spread right across the world, all quietly settling down to rest at the same hour. And if these calm recordings help you unwind and drift off at the end of the day, a gentle like and a quiet subscribe help this little channel more than you'd think. Now, let me tell you where we are going to wander this evening. Tonight, we are going to talk about something you have done every night of your life, and yet have almost never watched yourself do. We are going to talk about sleep, and about the strange and lovely thing that happens inside it, dreaming. We'll go down slowly, together, through the layers of a single night's rest, from the first drowsy moments to the deep still hours and the dreaming that comes near morning. We'll ask what sleep is quietly doing while you lie there, why your mind spins whole worlds out of nothing in the dark, and what, if anything, all those dreams are for. It is one of the closest mysteries there is, closer than the stars, closer even than the sea, because it happens inside your own head every single night. There is nothing here you need to follow closely. There is nothing to study, nothing to remember, and there is certainly no test at the end. If anything, I hope this feels less like a lesson and more like a slow bedtime story about the country you slip into every night without noticing. And if you find yourself drifting off somewhere in the middle of it, long before we reach the end, please don't feel you've missed a thing. Drifting off is exactly what this is for. It would be the loveliest possible way to spend the night. So make yourself as comfortable as you can. Sink a little deeper into the pillow. Let your shoulders soften, and let your eyes close whenever they're ready. Take one slow breath in, and let it gently out. And let us begin at the edge of sleep, where the waking world starts to blur. Here is a thought to start us off, offered gently, with no need to do anything about it. If you were to add up all the hours you have ever spent asleep, they would come to something close to a third of your whole life. A third of all your days and nights, gone soft and quiet, spent lying still with your eyes closed. If you live a long life, you may spend more than 20 years of it asleep. More than 20 years. It is one of the great quiet facts of being a person, and most of us almost never stop to notice it. For most of human history, people thought of that time as a kind of small nightly nothing. Sleep looked, from the outside, like being switched off. The body goes still. The eyes close. The face softens. You stop answering when someone speaks to you. And so it seemed only natural to suppose that sleep was simply the absence of everything. A little pause in your life, a gap between one busy day and the next, in which nothing much was going on at all. A candle blown out until morning. But that turns out to be almost exactly backwards. When we finally learned how to look, quietly, at what a sleeping brain is actually doing, and I'll tell you a little later how we learned to look, we found something rather wonderful. The sleeping brain is not switched off at all. Through much of the night, it is busy, humming, working away in the dark. In some stretches of sleep, it is nearly as active as it is when you are wide awake and thinking hard. Sleep is not a blank. It is a different kind of life, lived every night just beneath the surface of the one you remember. And dreaming is the part of it that, now and then, floats up high enough for you to catch a glimpse before it's gone. So I'd like you to set aside, if you can, that old idea of sleep as an empty nothing. Think of it instead as a second country you travel to every night, one with its own weather, its own rhythms, its own hidden work going on beneath your closed eyes. You have been going there your entire life. You went there last night, and the night before, and every night stretching back to before you can remember. Tonight, you will go there again. And this evening, before you do, we are simply going to take a slow, unhurried walk around its edges and try to understand a little of what happens there. Before we go down into the night properly, there is a small and rather lovely question worth pausing on, because we tend to take it entirely for granted. Why do we grow sleepy at night at all? Why does the tiredness come when it does, gathering in the evening and lifting again by morning, instead of falling on us at random through the day? The answer is that you are carrying a clock inside you, a real one, deep in your brain, quietly keeping time all on its own, whether you ever think of it or not. Deep in the middle of your head sits a tiny timekeeper, a little cluster of cells no bigger than a grain of rice, and its whole job is to keep the rhythm of your days. It runs on a cycle of very nearly one full day, all by itself, even shut away from any hint of morning or evening. And it sends its steady signal out through the whole body, quietly raising you toward alertness as the day comes on, and lowering you gently toward rest as the day fades. Almost everything about you rises and falls to its beat without your ever noticing. Your temperature, your energy, the tides of your own attention, all following that inner clock around the circle of the day. Left entirely to itself, that inner clock runs just a touch slow, a little longer than a real day, and so it needs something to keep it set to the true turning of the world. And the thing that sets it is light. Every morning, when light reaches your eyes, it quietly nudges the clock back into step with the day, telling it that morning has come. And as the light fails in the evening and darkness gathers, the body takes the hint and begins to release a gentle messenger, a substance that rises quietly in the blood as night falls and softly announces to every corner of you that the day is done and rest is near. You cannot feel it arrive, but you know its work well. It is part of that heaviness that steals over you in the late evening, that soft signal that it is time to let the day go. There is a second thing at work too, running alongside the clock, and it is even simpler. The longer you stay awake, the more a kind of sleepiness slowly gathers in you, building through all your waking hours like a quiet tide coming in. By the end of a long day, it has risen high, and it presses you towards sleep. And then, as you rest, that tide goes back out again. Sleep washes the sleepiness away, so that you wake in the morning with it low once more, and the whole slow filling begins again. So two things together decide when you feel ready for rest: the clock, telling you what hour it is, and that rising tide, telling you how long you have been awake. When both of them agree, when the clock says night and the tide has risen high, sleep comes easily and deeply and well. This is why crossing the world in a single day leaves you feeling so strange and unmoored for a while. Your inner clock is still keeping the time of the place you left, and it takes some days of new mornings and new light to gently coax it around to where you are now. And it is why a night bathed in bright light, long after the sun has gone, can leave you oddly wakeful, the clock half fooled into thinking the day is not yet over. Your inner timekeeper is patient and faithful, but it likes the old, honest signals. Light in the morning, darkness at night. Given those, it will carry you smoothly around the circle of each day, handing you over to sleep at the right hour and lifting you back out of it come morning, year after year, without your ever having to wind it or watch it. So even now, as you lie here in the low light with the day behind you, that quiet clock is turning you gently toward rest, and the long day's tide of sleepiness has risen to meet it. Everything within you is already leaning toward sleep. You do not have to make it happen. You have only to stop standing in its way. Let us start with a fair and simple question. Why do we sleep at all? It seems, on the face of it, like a rather risky thing for any creature to do. To sleep is to lie still for hours, unaware, unable to watch for danger, unable to eat or move or protect yourself. If sleep were useless, you would think that over the long ages, living things would slowly have given it up, the way we lose anything we don't need. And yet, nothing has. Every animal that has ever been carefully watched, from great whales to small birds to tiny flies, takes some form of rest that looks like sleep. Whatever sleep is for, it must be worth the risk. It must be doing something we cannot do without. For a long time, we didn't know what that something was, and if I am honest, there are still corners of the question we cannot fully answer. But over the last 100 years or so, patiently, we have learned a great deal, and the picture that has come into view is this. Sleep is not one job, but many. A whole night's worth of quiet work, done in the dark while you lie still and let it happen. Some of that work is the plain, tired repair of the body. Through the day, your body is worn a little by simply living, muscles used, tissues stressed, small hurts gathered, and in the deep part of sleep, the body turns much of its attention to mending. It releases the substances that help you grow and heal and knit yourself back together. This is part of why sleep matters so much when you're unwell, and why a child, growing so quickly, needs so much more of it than you do. A great deal of the mending of a body happens not while it is up and about, but while it is lying still in the dark, off duty, given over to repair. Some of the work is the tending of the mind. All through your waking day, your brain is taking things in. Everything you see and hear, everything that happens to you, everything you learn or feel or worry over. It cannot keep all of it, and it cannot sort all of it while it is busy living. And so it seems to do much of that sorting at night. In sleep, the brain appears to go back over the day, quietly deciding what to keep and what to let go, moving the things worth keeping into a steadier, longer-lasting form of memory, and gently loosening its grip on the countless small things that don't matter. You have surely noticed this yourself, even if you never named it. When you cannot solve a problem, or cannot learn a thing no matter how hard you try, the oldest and truest advice is to sleep on it, and to wake so often, finding it a little clearer. That is not magic. That is the night's quiet sorting, done while you slept. And there is a third kind of work, discovered only fairly recently, and it is one of my favorites, because it is so homely and so strange at once. It seems the brain uses sleep, in part, to clean itself. During the day, the simple business of thinking leaves behind a kind of waste, the ordinary leftovers of a hard-working organ. And in sleep, especially in the deepest sleep, the spaces within the brain appear to open a little wider, and a gentle tide of fluid washes through, carrying much of that waste away. Picture, if you like, A great house after a long and busy day, and in the quiet of the night, a slow, kind tide moving softly through its rooms, rinsing them clean and clear for the morning. We are still learning the details of this, and I don't want to overstate what we know for certain. But the general idea that sleep is partly a nightly washing out, a clearing of the mind, has the ring of something true, and it fits the plain fact we all know in our bodies, that a night of good sleep leaves you not just rested, but somehow rinsed, clearer, more yourself. So when you lie down tonight and slip away, know that you are not simply stopping. You are handing your body and your mind over to a whole night shift of quiet workers, the menders, the sorters, the cleaners, who only ever come out when the lights are low and you have finally gone still. Dreaming, which is where we are headed, happens right in the middle of all this work, and to find it, we need to go down into the night properly, step by step. Because sleep, it turns out, is not one single thing either. It comes in layers and in tides. If you imagine sleep at all, you probably imagine it as a flat, even thing. You go under at night, you stay under, and you come back up in the morning. And the middle is all one smooth stretch of the same darkness. It is a very natural way to picture it, but it is not how a night actually goes. A night of sleep is not a flat pool. It is more like the sea, with tides that rise and fall, carrying you down into the depths and back up toward the surface, over and over, all night long, in a slow and steady rhythm you never feel. Let me walk you down into it, the way it really happens. When you first lie down and close your eyes, you are still awake, of course, just resting. And then, at some soft and unmarked moment, you cross over. The first stage of sleep is the lightest and the shortest. A drowsy borderland, only a minute or two wide, where you are neither quite awake nor quite asleep. Your thoughts begin to wander and come loose from one another. Little half-images may drift across your mind. Sometimes, right here, you get that sudden falling feeling, a jolt as though you'd missed a step, and you twitch and half-wake. A small, harmless thing that happens to almost everyone at the very doorway of sleep. This first stage is a threshold, easy to cross and easy to be pulled back from. A quiet sound or a light touch can lift you straight out of it, and you might even swear you were never asleep at all. If nothing disturbs you, you sink from that threshold into the next stage, a truer and steadier sleep. Here you are properly under. Your breathing settles into an even rhythm. Your heartbeat slows. The muscles let go of the day's small tensions. You would no longer say, if woken, that you had only been resting. This second stage is the plainest, most ordinary sleep there is, and you spend more of the night in it than in any other, roughly half of it, all told. It is the calm, level water of the night, the wide middle sea you drift across again and again. And then, from there, you go down further still, into the deep. This is the heaviest, soundest sleep of all, the kind that is hardest to wake from, the sleep of the first few hours of the night, the sleep of a tired child who can be carried from the car to the bed without ever stirring. We'll spend a whole chapter down here in a moment, because a great deal happens in the deep. But for now, just feel the shape of the descent, the light threshold, the steady middle, and then down into the deep, sound and still. Here is the part that surprises people. Having sunk all the way down, you do not simply stay there until morning. After a stretch in the deep, you begin to rise again, back up through the lighter stages toward the surface, and then, instead of waking, you arrive somewhere altogether stranger. You arrive in the sleep where dreams grow richest, a place we'll come to very soon, where your body lies still. A stone, but your mind lights up and begins to spin its stories. You linger there a while, and then the whole thing begins again. Down toward the deep, back up toward dreaming, down and up, in slow rolling waves. Each full journey, down into the depths and back up through dreaming, takes something like an hour and a half. So across a whole night, you make this trip perhaps 4 or 5 times over. And the shape of it changes as the night goes on, in a way that matters for our story. In the first part of the night, the deep sleep is long and heavy, and the dreaming is short. But as the hours pass and the body's repairs get done, the balance tips. The deep grows shorter, and the dreaming grows longer and richer, until by the last stretch before morning, you may be spending long spells adrift in dreams. This is the simplest reason why the dream you remember is so often the one you were having right before you woke, because the richest, longest dreaming of the whole night is saved for those last hours near dawn, waiting for you at the top of the very last wave. So that is the sea we are floating on tonight. Not a flat, dark nothing, but a tide that carries you down and up, 4 or 5 slow times before the sun. Let us follow it down now, into the deep, and see what the night does there. Come down with me into the deepest part of the night. This is the sleep that comes for you first and hardest in the early hours after you go under, and it is the most difficult of all to be woken from. If someone tries to rouse you out of the deep, you come up slow and confused, thick-headed, not sure where you are or what time it is. Your brain does not want to leave. It is busy down here, and the work it is doing is some of the most important of the whole night. If we could listen in on the sleeping brain in the deep, and we can, in a gentle way, I'll describe shortly, we would hear it doing something remarkable. During the day, and in lighter sleep, the countless tiny cells of your brain chatter away in a fast, busy, disorganized murmur, each doing its own small thing, like a great crowd all talking at once. But down in the deep, that changes. The whole vast crowd begins, astonishingly, to fall into step. Great slow waves roll across the brain, tides of quiet and activity sweeping through it together, again and again, slow and steady and grand. It is the most orderly the brain ever becomes. A hush falls over the daytime chatter, and in its place comes this deep, rolling rhythm, which is exactly why this stage is sometimes called slow wave sleep. It is the brain at its calmest and most gathered, all its restless voices finally moving as one. And it is here, in these slow, deep waves, that much of the night's real repair gets done. This is when the body pours out the substances that mend and rebuild it, when tired tissues are knit back together, when a child grows and an adult heals. This is when that gentle washing tide I mentioned moves most freely through the brain, clearing away the day's leftovers. And this deep sleep seems to be where a particular kind of remembering happens, the settling of facts and knowledge into lasting memory. Things you learn during the day, names and places, and how a thing is done, appear to be quietly carried, in the deep, from the fragile store where new memories first land into the deeper, steadier store where they can last for years. There is a lovely picture some scientists use for this. The slow waves of the deep acting like a hand turning the pages of the day, going back over what you learned, pressing it gently into place so it will still be there in the morning. Whether or not that picture is exactly right in every detail, the plain result is one you know in your own life, that to truly learn a thing, you must sleep on it, and that a night of deep, sound sleep is worth more than any amount of tired cramming. I find there is something deeply reassuring in all this. Down in the deep of the night, when you are farthest from the waking world, most unaware, most helpless seeming, your body and your mind are in fact at their most industrious and their most kind to you. You are being mended. You are being cleared. The day you had is being sorted and saved. All of it happening without any effort or attention from you at all. Indeed, it can only happen because you have finally stopped paying attention and let go and gone all the way down. There is a kind of trust in that, if you think about it. Every night you let go completely, and every night the quiet workers of the deep do their work, and every morning you are handed back to yourself a little more whole. You don't have to do anything to earn it. You only have to let yourself sink. But we are here tonight for the dreams, and the deep, for all its importance, is not mainly where the vivid dreams live. The deep is quiet and dark, and largely without stories. To find the dreaming, the real, strange, moving picture dreaming, the kind you wake up wanting to tell someone about, we have to leave the deep and rise back up, toward a stranger shore. Come back up with me, then out of the deep, toward the most curious country in all of sleep. As you rise up out of the deep, something extraordinary happens, and it happens to you several times every night, though you almost never catch it. You come up through the lighter stages, back toward the surface, and then, just as you seem about to wake, you turn aside into a state so peculiar that the people who first studied it could hardly believe what they were seeing. Your body sinks into a stillness deeper than the deep, but your brain, at the very same moment, blazes back to life. Let me describe what someone watching over you would see, because it is genuinely strange. Your body has gone almost completely limp, more relaxed in fact, than at any other time in the whole night. Your arms and legs will not move, and yet, behind your closed eyelids, your eyes have begun to dart and flick about, quickly, this way and that, as though you were watching something happen. That is the most visible sign of this state, and it is where the name comes from. The sleep of rapid eye movement, of the eyes moving quickly beneath their lids. But the eyes are only the outward hint. The real event is happening deeper in, out of sight. Inside your skull, your brain has lit up. If you could see its activity, you would find it nearly as busy, nearly as electric, as a brain wide awake and thinking. The great slow waves of the deep are gone entirely. In their place is the fast, bright, crackling activity of a mind hard at work, except that the person it belongs to is fast asleep and will remember, at best, only fragments. This is where the vivid dreams live. Not all dreaming happens here. The mind murmurs quietly to itself in other stages too, in vaguer, thoughtier ways. But the full-blown dream, the kind with places and people and events, the kind that feels like a whole world you have fallen into, the kind you wake from with your heart still racing or your eyes still wet. That kind of dream belongs mostly to this strange, bright sleep. Here, with your body switched off and your brain switched on, you become, night after night, the maker and the only audience of an entire private theatre. You conjure faces and rooms and skies. You hear voices. You feel fear and joy and love and grief as sharply as you ever feel them awake. You go on journeys, meet the living and the dead, do impossible things, all of it woven fresh out of nothing but the quiet firing of a sleeping brain in a dark and silent room. Because the brain is so active here, and the body so still, this state has an old and rather beautiful nickname among the people who study it. They sometimes call it paradoxical sleep, the sleep that contradicts itself, because it is at once the deepest sleep of the body and the most wakeful state of the mind, both at the very same time. You are more asleep than ever and more awake than ever, together in the dark. And you cross into this contradiction not once but again and again through the night, riding up out of the deep and into the dream and back down, 4 or 5 times before dawn, with the dreaming stretches growing longer each time, saving the richest for last. There is a great deal to say about what happens in this bright, still country, why the body goes so limp, why the dreams take the shapes they do, what they might be for, and whether they mean anything at all. We will take all of it slowly, one gentle question at a time. But for now, simply rest with the strangeness and the wonder of it. Every single night of your life without fail, your body lies down and goes still, a stone, and your mind rises up and lights a fire and tells itself stories until morning. You have done it every night you have ever lived. You will almost certainly do it again tonight, a few hours from now, once you've drifted off. And the first small marvel of it, before we understand any of the rest, is simply that it happens at all. Let us stay a while in that strange, bright country of dreams, because there is a lovely piece of it worth understanding slowly. I told you that while you dream, your body goes almost completely limp, that your arms and legs will not move no matter what wild thing you are doing in the dream. This is not an accident, and it is not a flaw. It is one of the kindest tricks your body plays on you, and it happens on purpose, every single night. Think about what a dream actually is for a moment. In a full dream, you are running, or fighting, or flying, or falling, or reaching out towards someone. Your dreaming mind is sending out all the same signals it would send if you were truly doing those things. As far as much of your brain is concerned, you really are running down that road or reaching for that door. So what stops you from leaping out of bed and acting the whole thing out? From kicking and running and swinging your arms in the dark? From hurting yourself or whoever lies beside you? The answer is that, right as you enter the dreaming sleep, your body throws a soft and silent switch. Deep in the base of the brain, a small quiet gatekeeper steps in and gently cuts the line between the dreaming mind and the moving body. The commands still go out from your dreaming brain: run, jump, reach, but they are stopped, held back, before they can reach your muscles. And so your body lies still and safe in the bed, while your mind goes on its wild adventures. It is a little like a film being played to a locked and empty theatre. The whole story runs, vivid and complete, but nothing spills out into the world. This gentle paralysis is so complete that if you were somehow aware of it, it might alarm you. And once in a while, people do become briefly aware of it, catching themselves half awake while the body is still switched off, unable to move for a few seconds. It can feel strange, even frightening, in the moment. But it is entirely harmless, and it passes on its own within a breath or two, as the body simply catches up and switches the muscles back on. It is not a sign that anything is wrong. It is only the nightly safety switch glimpsed for a moment out of its proper order. Far more often, of course, the switch does its quiet work perfectly, and you never know a thing about it. And you can see how good and necessary this arrangement is by looking at the rare cases where it doesn't work as it should. In a small number of people, usually later in life, that gatekeeper grows unreliable, and the line between the dreaming mind and the body is not fully cut. Such people begin, quite literally, to act out their dreams, to move and speak and reach, and sometimes thrash, playing out in the dark bedroom, whatever they are living through in the dream. It can be a difficult thing, and it is gently looked after by doctors when it happens. But for our purposes tonight, it simply proves the rule that for the rest of us, every night, something is deliberately and carefully holding the body still, precisely so that the mind can be free to roam. Your stillness is not emptiness. Your stillness is what keeps you safe while you dream. So picture yourself later tonight, once you've slipped away and risen into the dream. Your body will lie there in the dark, soft and unmoving, breathing slow, utterly at peace. And behind that peaceful stillness, unseen, your mind will be somewhere else entirely, walking a road that doesn't exist, talking with someone who isn't there, feeling things as real as anything you feel by day. The stillness is the frame. The dream is the picture. And the one makes the other possible. Now let us step inside the dream itself and look, as gently as we can, at what it is actually like in there. Because dreams have a particular texture, a certain feel, that is unlike anything in waking life. And once it's pointed out to you, you recognize it at once from every dream you have ever had. The first and strangest thing about being in a dream is that, while you are in it, you almost always believe it completely. The most impossible things happen. You are flying, or your childhood home has rooms it never had, or someone long gone is sitting across from you, alive and talking, and you accept all of it without a flicker of doubt. The part of your mind that would normally sit back and say, "Wait, this cannot be right, this makes no sense," has gone quiet. So the dream simply carries you along, and you go where it goes, and it all seems perfectly ordinary from the inside, however wild it looks in the retelling. It is only when you wake and that watchful, doubting part of your mind comes back online that you look back and think, how strange, how impossible. Why did none of that seem odd to me at the time? The second thing is the way dreams move. A waking day follows the plain rules of the world. One place leads to the next. 1 hour follows the last. People stay who they are. Dreams do none of this. In a dream, you can be in one place and then, without any travel, simply be in another. A person can be your friend and also, somehow, a stranger, and you feel no contradiction. The scene can shift. The story can turn a corner into something new, and you go along with each change as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Dreams flow by their own soft logic, gliding from one thing to another the way clouds change shape, not by breaking the rules on purpose, but as though the rules had simply been set gently aside for the night. The third thing, and perhaps the most important, is how much dreams feel. Whatever else a dream is, it is almost always drenched in emotion. The events may be strange and the settings impossible, but the feelings are utterly real, sometimes more real, more raw than anything you allow yourself by day. Dreams can fill you with a joy so wide you wake up smiling, or a fear so sharp your heart is still pounding on the pillow, or a tenderness, or a grief, or a longing that stays with you long into the morning. This is one of the truest marks of a dream. Not that it shows you unreal things, but that it makes you feel real things about them. The dreaming mind is, above all, a feeling mind. It cares less about whether the story makes sense and more about the weight of the feeling running underneath it. And the last thing worth naming is how quickly it all slips away. A dream can be as long and detailed as a whole film, packed with places and people and events. And yet, within moments of waking, most of it is simply gone, dissolving like breath off a cold window until you are left holding only a scrap or two, or nothing at all but the mood it left behind. This is not a failing on your part. The dreaming brain is, for reasons we'll come to, very poor at laying down lasting memories, so most dreams are never really saved in the first place. You are not forgetting them so much as never quite keeping them, which means that every night you live through hours of vivid experience that vanish almost entirely by morning. A whole secret life written on water. There is something both wistful and rather beautiful in that. You are the author of countless stories you will never read twice. So why are dreams like this? Why the impossible events accepted without question? The shifting scenes, the flood of feeling, the slipping away. For a long time, these were pure mysteries, and much about them still is. But we now understand at least part of the answer, and it turns out to come from a simple and rather satisfying fact. When you dream, your brain is not working all in one piece. Some parts of it are wide awake and roaring, and other parts have gone quiet. And which parts do which explains a great deal about why dreams feel the way they do. Let me give you the gentle version without any hard words. Near the front of your brain, just behind your forehead, lies the part that does your most careful, sensible thinking. This is the part that plans ahead, that weighs whether something makes sense, that holds you back and says, wait, that keeps track of what is real and what is not, that quietly watches over you and keeps your thoughts in order. It is, you might say, the wise and cautious grown-up of the mind. And here is the key thing. During dreaming sleep, this careful front part goes remarkably quiet. It dims down and steps back, off duty for the night. So the guard who would normally check each thought against reality has, in effect, gone home. Which is exactly why, in a dream, nothing seems too strange to believe. There is no one on watch to raise an objection. Meanwhile, other parts of the brain do the opposite. The deep, old parts that handle feeling, that stir up fear and joy and desire and dread, become, if anything, more active in dreams than they are by day. And the parts that build images, that paint the pictures you see, light up and get busy too. So picture the situation. The feeling parts are turned up loud. The picture-making parts are turned up loud. And the sensible, doubting, reality-checking part has gone quiet and stepped aside. What you get, when you put those together, is exactly a dream. A flood of vivid pictures, soaked in strong feeling, with no one there to say that any of it is impossible. The emotion runs the show, and the story bends itself to fit the feeling, and no watchful grown-up is awake to tidy it up. That is why dreams are strange, and why they are so full of feeling, and why they seem to make perfect sense from the inside, even when they make none from without. And that quiet front part explains the forgetting too. Part of its daytime job is helping to fix experiences into memory, to file them away so you can find them later. With it dimmed down for the night, the dreams you have are never properly filed. They happen fully and vividly, and then, with nothing holding them in place, they slide away. So the same quiet grown-up that would have kept your dream sensible is also the one who would have kept them. And because it is resting, your dreams are free to be wild, and free, as well, to be forgotten by morning. I find this a strangely comforting thing to know. It means the odd, illogical, deeply felt character of your dreams is not a sign that anything is wrong with you, and it is not a hidden message written in code. It is simply what happens when a brain runs at night with the feeling parts turned up and the careful part turned down. Your dreams are strange for the plainest of reasons, because the part of you that insists on sense has, very sensibly, gone to sleep. And now we come to the oldest question of all, the one you have probably been waiting for, the one people have asked around fires and beside beds for as long as there have been people to ask it. What are dreams for? Why do we have them at all? What, if anything, do they mean? I want to be honest with you here, because honesty is part of the calm of a thing like this. We do not fully know. This is one of those places where the truthful answer is that the question is still open, still debated by thoughtful people who have spent their lives studying it. There is no single settled answer I can hand you tonight and say, there, that is what dreams are for. But that does not mean we are simply in the dark. Over the years, several good and thoughtful ideas have grown up, each catching some real part of the truth, and I'd like to walk you gently through the main ones, so you can hold them in your mind and make of them what you like. None of them needs to be the whole answer. It may well be that dreams are for several of these things at once, or for different things on different nights. The first idea is the one we've already been circling, that dreams are tangled up with memory and learning. We know the sleeping brain sorts through the day, keeping some things and letting others go. Perhaps dreaming is part of what that sorting feels like from the inside. The mind going back over recent experiences, turning them this way and that, weaving them together with older memories, deciding what belongs. This would explain why dreams so often stitch together bits of your real life. A face from today, a place from years ago, a worry you've been carrying, into new and jumbled combinations. On this view, a dream is a little like the mind shuffling the deck of your life, replaying and reordering the cards, and you happen to catch glimpses of the shuffle as it goes. The second idea is about feeling rather than fact. Perhaps dreams are a way the mind tends to its emotions, a kind of gentle, overnight working through of the things that troubled or moved you. In a dream, remember, the feeling parts of the brain are loud, but the harsh, stress-driven chemistry of a truly frightening moment is turned down. So it may be that dreaming lets you revisit difficult feelings in a softer, safer place, a little removed from their full sting, and in doing so slowly take some of the edge off them. It is an old piece of folk wisdom that things look better in the morning, that a night's sleep can soften a grief or settle a worry. There may be real truth in that, and dreaming may be part of how it happens. The mind quietly doing, in the dark, the slow work of making peace with the day. The third idea is more surprising and rather charming once you sit with it. Perhaps dreams are a kind of safe practice, a rehearsal for waking life. Notice how often dreams put you in some difficulty. You are being chased, or you are lost, or something has gone wrong and you must deal with it. One thought is that this is no accident, that the dreaming mind runs you through hard situations over and over, in a place where nothing can actually harm you, so that you are a little better prepared to meet trouble when it comes for real. A great many of our dreams carry an edge of tension or challenge, and this idea would explain why. that the night is quietly training you, letting you face fears and solve problems in a world with no real stakes. The way a young animal practices hunting in play. Your dreams on this view are a rehearsal room for living, open all night, free of charge, with no chance of getting hurt. The fourth idea is the most humbling, and I include it because good honesty demands it. It is possible that dreams are, at least in part, simply the mind's attempt to make sense of noise. Remember that in dreaming sleep, the brain is firing away busily on its own, sending up all sorts of signals and sparks. Perhaps some of what we dream is just the storytelling part of the mind doing what it always does, taking whatever it is handed and spinning it into a story, even when what it is handed is only the random crackle of a sleeping brain. On this view, the brain throws up a jumble of images and feelings for its own inner reasons, and your mind, which cannot help but seek a story in anything, weaves those scraps into the best tale it can. That would explain the strangeness and the sudden turns. Not a hidden message, but a gifted storyteller making do with whatever pieces come to hand. And even this humble idea has a kind of beauty in it, for it means that your mind is such a natural teller of stories that it will make one even in its sleep, even out of nothing, purely for its own sake. You may have noticed I have not offered you the oldest and most famous idea of all, the notion that every dream is a hidden wish in disguise, a secret desire dressed up in symbols to slip past the mind's guard. That idea was hugely important in its day, more than 100 years ago, and it did a great service simply by taking dreams seriously, by insisting they were worth listening to at all. But as a plain account of what dreams are and how they work, it has not held up well under careful study, and most who look closely at dreams today no longer think each one is a coded wish waiting to be decoded. I mention it because you have surely heard of it, and because it deserves respect as a brave early guess. But I would not have you lie awake tonight trying to decode your dreams as though each were a locked box with a single secret inside. The truth, as best we can tell, is gentler and stranger than that. So there they are, the main quiet guesses, that dreams help sort our memories, that they tend our feelings, that they rehearse us for life, and that they are partly just the mind making stories out of its own nighttime noise. Hold them loosely. The honest position tonight is that dreaming is almost certainly doing something real and useful for us. A thing so old and so universal is unlikely to be pure accident, but that we have not yet fully learned its name. And there is no shame, and even a certain peace, in letting a mystery stay a mystery a little longer, especially one as soft and harmless as this. Here is something that has amazed people for as long as they have compared their dreams with one another. Although each of us dreams alone, in the privacy of our own dark room, we do not all dream entirely different things. Scattered among the countless private dreams of the world, the same few dreams turn up again and again, in person after person, country after country, age after age. There are, it seems, certain places nearly all of us go in our sleep, and there is a strange comfort in knowing them, because it means that whatever you dream tonight, however odd it feels, you are almost certainly in good company. Millions of others have dreamed something very like it. Perhaps the most common of all is the dream of falling. So many people know it, that sudden sense of dropping, of the ground giving way, of tumbling through empty air. Often it comes right at the edge of sleep, paired with that little jolt of the body I mentioned earlier, so that you wake with a gasp, heart quick, certain for half a second that you truly fell. Nearly everyone has had this dream. It is one of the first doorways into the country of sleep, and one of the most widely shared. Close beside it is the dream of being chased. Something is behind you. You may never even see clearly what it is. And you are running, and cannot get away. And often your legs feel heavy and slow, as though you are running through deep water or thick air, unable to move as fast as you need to. It is a tense and breathless dream, and an extremely common one. You may remember that one idea about dreams is that they let us rehearse facing danger safely. The chase dream fits that idea almost too neatly, as though the night were practicing you over and over at the ancient art of getting away. Then there is the opposite, and one of the loveliest, the dream of flying. To lift off the ground, to rise into the air, to soar over the rooftops and fields with nothing holding you down. It is one of the great joys the sleeping mind can give, and many people count a flying dream among the happiest experiences they have ever had, waking or sleeping. No one is quite sure why flying dreams are so common, but common they are, in every part of the world, and they leave behind a particular ache of delight, a memory of freedom that lingers into the day. There are others that recur with the same strange regularity. The dream of losing your teeth, of feeling them crumble or fall out. A peculiar dream, oddly widespread, that no one has fully explained. The dream of arriving somewhere important, only to find you are unprepared, that you have a test you never studied for, or must speak before a crowd with nothing ready, or cannot find the right room. A dream especially loved by the anxious part of the mind, and known to nearly everyone who has ever had a duty to fulfill. The dream of being back in a school long left behind, or a childhood home, or with people from years ago, as though no time had passed at all. And the tender, difficult dreams in which someone we have lost is with us again, alive and near, so real that waking from them can be its own small grief and its own small gift. Why these particular dreams and not others should be shared so widely, we do not entirely know. Perhaps they grow from feelings and situations so basic to being human. The fear of falling, the fear of being pursued, the wish to rise above it all, the worry of not being ready, the longing for those we miss, that any human mind left to dream will sooner or later wander into them. Whatever the reason, the fact itself is a quiet marvel. All over the world tonight, in 1,000 languages, under 1,000 different roofs, people are falling and running and flying and searching for a room they cannot find and meeting again the ones they have loved and lost. You are not alone in the country of sleep. You never have been. The places you go there, others have been going for as long as there have been dreamers at all. Earlier, I promised I'd tell you how we ever came to know any of this, how anyone could possibly watch what a sleeping brain is doing, or catch a dream in the act, when a dream is the most private thing there is. It's a lovely little story, and worth pausing on, because it shows how a great mystery can be opened not by force, but by patient, gentle looking. For almost all of human history, there was simply no way to study sleep from the outside. A sleeping person just lies there. You cannot ask them what is happening, because the moment you wake them to ask, the sleep is over and the dream has scattered. So dreams belong to the world of guesswork and story, and no one could do much better than guess. But then, over the last 100 years or so, we learned something that changed everything. we learned that the working brain gives off faint, rhythmic pulses of electricity, tiny electrical tides that can be gently picked up by soft sensors resting on the skin of the scalp. Nothing goes in. Nothing is felt. The sleeper feels only a few light pads against the head. But through them, for the first time, we could watch the rhythm of a brain as it slept, and see it change, see the fast, busy chatter of waking give way to the slow, grand waves of the deep, and back again. And then came the moment that opened the door to dreams. A little over 70 years ago, in a laboratory, researchers watching sleepers through the night noticed something they hadn't expected. That every so often, at regular points in the night, the sleeper's eyes would begin to dart quickly back and forth beneath their closed lids, while the brain lit up busy and bright. It was the outward sign of the dreaming sleep we spoke of earlier. And someone had the simple, brilliant idea to do the one thing no one had properly done before, to wake the sleepers gently during those spells of darting eyes, right in the middle of them, and ask what had been passing through their minds. Again and again, the answer came back the same. They had been dreaming, vividly, richly, a whole scene unfolding. And when the same sleepers were woken at other times, in the quieter stretches of the night, they far more often had nothing to report, or only a vague dim murmur. There it was, at last, a way to find the dream from the outside, a way to tell, by watching a sleeping face and a sleeping brain, when a person was very likely dreaming, and so to study dreaming carefully, night after night, sleeper after sleeper, and slowly build up the picture I have been sharing with you all evening. Almost everything we now understand about the shape of the night, the tides of sleep, the strange, bright country of dreams, grew from that patient watching in quiet rooms. It is a good thing to remember that some of the deepest mysteries yield not to great force, but to soft attention, to someone sitting quietly by a sleeper through the night, watching and gently asking, when the eyes began to move, "What did you see?" Now and then someone will tell you, quite firmly, that they never dream at all. Perhaps you feel that way yourself, that whole weeks go by, or whole years, without a single dream, that your nights are simply blank. It is a very common thing to believe, and yet, as far as we can tell, it is not quite true. When people who are sure they never dream are watched through the night in a quiet laboratory and gently woken during the bright dreaming sleep we spoke of, they too, more often than not, find they have a dream to report, a scene they were in the middle of, just as vivid as anyone else's. They had been dreaming all along. They simply weren't keeping any of it. The difference between the people who remember their dreams and the people who swear they have none is not, it seems, a difference in dreaming. It is a difference in remembering. Because the truth is that you dream far more than you ever know. On an ordinary night, you don't have just one dream but several, one waiting near the top of each of those slow waves of the night, 4 or 5 of them before morning, growing longer and richer as the hours pass. Add all those dreaming stretches together, and they come to something like 2 hours out of every night, spent adrift in dreams. 2 hours, near enough, every single night of your life, which means that across a long life, you will spend years of your time dreaming, whole years lived in that other country. And remember, of all of it, only the faintest scattered handful of scenes. It is one of the quietest, strangest facts about being a person. You are a lifelong traveler in a land you can barely recall having visited. And we already understand from all we've said why so little of it stays. The part of the mind that fixes experiences into lasting memory is turned down low while you dream, so your dreams are never really written down in the first place. And on top of that, we usually drift up out of sleep slowly and softly, and a dream that isn't caught in the first moments of waking simply melts away, the way mist lifts off a field as the sun comes up. This is why the dream you do remember is nearly always the one you woke straight out of, caught for once before it could dissolve. It is why, if you wake to a loud alarm and leap straight into your day, the night's dreams vanish at once, while a slow, soft, unhurried waking sometimes lets you hold on to one a little longer. Some people naturally remember more of their dreams than others, and that is simply how they are made. It means nothing about the health of their sleep or the depth of their rest. There is a gentle freedom in knowing all this, I think. It means you need never worry that you have somehow stopped dreaming, or that a blank and dreamless seeming night was a night without that quiet inner life. The theatre plays every night, whether or not anyone remembers the show. Your mind makes its stories in the dark regardless, the falling and the flying, the faces and the places, and it asks nothing of you, not even that you recall them. So there is no need to try to hold on to your dreams tonight. No need to reach after them or wish you could keep them. Let them come and go as they please. They will do their quiet work whether you remember them or not, as they have every night of your life, and as they will again tonight, once you have drifted off and the first of them rises to meet you. Not all dreams are gentle, of course. Some nights bring us bad dreams, frightening ones, sad ones, dreams we are glad to wake from. And since we are speaking of dreams honestly and completely tonight, I don't want to pass over the dark ones as if they didn't exist. But I do want to speak of them kindly, and to leave you, I hope, a little more at ease with them than you were, because there is real comfort to be found even here. A nightmare is simply a dream in which the feeling has turned to fear or distress. Everything we've said about dreams still holds: the loosened logic, the vivid pictures, the flood of emotion. Only now, the emotion running underneath is a hard one. And because the dreaming brain saves its longest, richest spells for the hours near morning, nightmares, like all vivid dreams, tend to come in the second half of the night, which is why you may wake from one as dawn is near. They are far more common in childhood, when the world is newer and larger and more frightening, and they usually grow rarer as we get older and more settled in ourselves. Almost everyone has them now and then, all through life. They are a normal part of the country of sleep, not a sign of anything broken. And here is the gentle turn I promised. Even a nightmare may be doing you a kind of quiet service. Remember the idea that dreams let us rehearse facing hard things in a place where nothing can truly harm us. A frightening dream may be exactly that at work, the mind running you through a fear, letting you feel it and face it and come through it, all within the safety of sleep, so that its grip on you loosens a little. And remember, too, the idea that dreams help us tend our feelings, softening the sharp edges of what troubles us. A bad dream may be part of how the mind works through a real worry or a real grief, carrying it a small step further toward peace. This does not make nightmares pleasant, but it may mean they are not simply cruel either. That even the dark dreams are, in their rough way, on your side, part of the same nightly work of sorting and settling and keeping you whole. If nightmares ever come to you often and heavily, weighing on your rest night after night, That is worth speaking to someone about gently, for there are kind and simple ways to ease them, and no one need suffer through them alone. But for the ordinary bad dream that visits now and then, the one you wake from with a fast heart, and then, slowly, with relief, remembering that you are safe in your own bed after all, for that kind, I hope you can hold a softer feeling now. It is only the night doing its work with a heavier hand. The fear was never real. You were safe the whole time, lying still in the dark, and the switch that holds the body quiet kept you so. And the surest cure for a nightmare is the plainest one in the world: to wake and find the room around you, and the blankets, and the ordinary quiet, and to know that you are here, and it is over, and you can let it go. Let me lift us back up into brighter country with one of the most curious and delightful things the sleeping mind can do. I told you that while you are inside a dream, you almost always believe it completely, because the careful, doubting part of your mind has gone quiet. But every so often, in the middle of a dream, something remarkable happens. A small flicker of that waking awareness returns, just enough, and you realize, right there inside the dream, that you are dreaming. You notice that something is impossible, that you are flying, say, or that the person before you cannot really be here. And instead of accepting it as you usually would, a quiet voice within says, "Wait, this is a dream. I am dreaming right now." This is called a lucid dream, a dream in which you know that you are dreaming. And it is a real and studied thing, not a fancy. People have it to different degrees. Sometimes it is only a faint knowing, there and then gone. But sometimes it is clear and steady, and the dreamer, aware now that none of it is real and nothing can harm them, is free simply to explore, to look around at the world their own mind has built, to move through it with a strange calm wonder, and sometimes even to steer it a little, to choose where to go or what to do. Imagine that, to be walking through a landscape spun entirely out of your own sleeping mind, and to know it, and to be at peace within it, free to wander a country that exists nowhere but inside your own head. Researchers have even found a gentle way to reach across the border into a lucid dream. You'll recall that in dreaming sleep, the body is held still, all its muscles switched off, all, that is, except the eyes, which are free to move. And so, a lucid dreamer, aware that they are dreaming, can send a prearranged signal out to the watching world, simply by moving their eyes in an agreed pattern, deliberately from within the dream. From the outside, a sleeper lies still and dreaming, and then the eyes move just so, in the pattern agreed upon beforehand, a message sent from inside a dream, across the border of sleep, to someone waiting on the waking side. It is one of the strangest and most touching facts in all of this, that we have, in a small way, spoken with people while they dreamed and had them answer. Not everyone has lucid dreams, and there is no need at all to seek them out. The ordinary kind, believed and lived and forgotten, are marvel enough. But it is a lovely thing to know they are possible, that the mind is capable, now and then, of waking up a little inside its own story without ending it, and of standing quietly in a world of its own making, knowing exactly where it is. Dreaming is not the same all through our lives. It changes as we grow and age, and following that change from one end of a life to the other is a quiet, moving thing to do. Consider, first, the very young. A newborn baby sleeps a great deal, far more than you do, and an astonishing share of that sleep is the dreaming kind, the bright, active sleep with the moving eyes, where you might spend a fifth or so of your night in that state. A newborn spends something close to half of all its long hours of sleep there. What a tiny baby could possibly be dreaming about, with so little life behind it, no one can say. Perhaps it is not dreaming in our grown-up sense at all. But the sheer amount of that active, dreaming sleep in the very young has made many people wonder whether it is somehow part of building the brain itself, whether all that nighttime activity helps wire up a new mind, stirring and shaping a brain that is growing faster now than it ever will again. The youngest among us live, it seems, half in that other country, in a way none of us will ever quite return to. As a child grows, the balance slowly shifts toward the pattern you know, though children still dream vividly and often, and feel their dreams keenly, the good and the bad alike. Through the long middle of life, dreaming settles into its steady adult rhythm. That fifth or so of each night, 4 or 5 voyages into the dream before dawn. And as we grow old, sleep tends to grow lighter and a little more broken, the deep harder to reach and hold, and dreaming may grow quieter too. But it does not leave us. People dream in their last years as they did in their first, carrying whole lifetimes now into the country of sleep, the faces of long ago, the places that no longer exist, all of it still visited, night after night, in the dark. And here is a thought to widen the whole picture, and I find it a wonderful one to rest on. We are almost certainly not the only creatures who dream. Watch a dog asleep by the fire, its paws twitching, small sounds escaping it, its closed eyes flickering, and it is very hard not to feel that it is off somewhere, running a field it knows. And in fact, when animals are studied carefully, many of them, the other mammals and the birds, show the very same dreaming sleep we have, the same bright active state with the moving eyes. There is even careful work suggesting that some animals, in their sleep, run back through the very things they did that day, that a small creature who spent the day learning its way through a maze will, in the night, quietly trace that same path again in its sleeping brain, just as we seem to go back over our own days. So when you picture the world settling into sleep tonight, do not picture only people. Picture the dogs and the cats, the horses in their fields, and the birds in the trees, the great whales resting in the dark sea. So many of them, in their own ways, also slipping off into that other country, also dreaming, each after its own fashion. We are not alone in it. To dream appears to be one of the deep old habits of living things, shared far more widely than we ever used to think. It is one of the quiet fellowships of being alive. Long before anyone could measure a brainwave or watch an eye move beneath a lid, people everywhere were paying close attention to their dreams. For dreams are one of the very oldest human experiences, as old as sleep itself, and every people in every age has wondered what to make of them. It's a gentle pleasure, on a night like this, to think back over how differently and how earnestly our ancestors listened to the dreams we are still puzzling over now. In many of the old cultures, dreams were thought to be messages, visits from somewhere beyond, glimpses of things to come, words from the departed or the divine, arriving in the night when the ordinary world had gone quiet enough to hear them. People sought out their dreams on purpose, sleeping in special places in the hope of receiving guidance, or turning to those wise in such things to help them understand what a dream had meant. A dream might be trusted to warn of danger, to counsel a choice, to comfort the grieving, with the sense that someone loved was near. Whole traditions grew up around the reading of dreams, careful and serious, tended over generations. Whether or not we share those beliefs today, there is something worth honoring in them. The simple recognition that dreams matter, that they are worth attending to, that the mind at night is telling us something, even if we cannot always say what. Dreams have been quietly generous to the waking world in other ways too. Now and again, someone puzzling for months over a hard problem has found the answer arriving in a dream, or in the drowsy borderland at the edge of sleep. A shape, an image, a sudden rightness that daylight thinking had missed. Artists and writers and makers of all kinds have drawn on their dreams for centuries, finding in that strange nighttime country images and stories they could never have reached by plain effort. This fits well with what we've come to understand, that the sleeping mind, freed from its careful daytime guard, connects things in new and unexpected ways, laying one idea beside another that waking sense would have kept apart. So the very strangeness of dreams, their loose and unruly logic, turns out to be a kind of gift, a nightly source of the new, an inner room where the mind is free to combine and imagine without limit. Some of the loveliest things people have made began as something glimpsed in a dream. I think there is a quiet lesson in all this long history of listening, and it is a peaceful one to carry towards sleep. Across all the ages, in every land, people have found their dreams to be meaningful, not necessarily as coded predictions or secret messages, but as something that belongs to them, that comes from within them, that is worth holding gently in the morning light. You need not read your dreams as omens, nor decode them as puzzles to let them matter to you. You might simply greet them now and then as your own, the private theatre of your own sleeping mind, playing on through the night, as it has for every human being who has ever lived and rested and closed their eyes. You are part of a very old company of dreamers, and tonight, once you drift off, you will quietly take your place among them again. We have wandered a long way tonight, all around the edges of sleep, and it is nearly time to let the words fade and simply go there ourselves. So let me gather the night gently, once more, before I lower my voice for good. We began by seeing that sleep is not an empty nothing, but a whole quiet second life, lived every night beneath the surface of the one you remember, a third of all your days spent in that other country. We followed the tides of the night down into the deep, where the body mends and the mind is cleared, and the day is sorted and saved, and back up into the strange bright sea of dreams, where your body lies still as stone and your mind lights a fire and tells itself stories until morning. We saw why dreams are the way they are, the careful part of the mind gone quiet, the feeling parts turned up, the story bending to fit the feeling, with no one on watch to say that any of it is impossible. We wondered together what dreams might be for, the sorting of memory, the tending of feeling, the safe rehearsal of life, the mean making stories out of its own soft noise, and we were honest that we do not yet fully know, and gentle with the mystery, and we found, in the end, that you are never alone in any of it, that the same dreams are dreamed all over the world, by young and old, and by the animals in their fields and the whales in the dark sea, a whole living world slipping off together into the country of sleep. And now that country is waiting for you, as it waits every night, patient and familiar and kind. In a little while, once these words have stopped, you will cross over into it yourself, without any effort at all, You will sink from the threshold into the steady middle and down into the deep, and the quiet workers of the night will do their gentle work while you lie unaware. And somewhere in the small hours, you will rise into the dream and go walking in a world your own mind has made, and feel things there as real as anything by day. And remember, come morning, almost none of it. And that is exactly as it should be. There is nothing you need to do, nothing to hold on to, nothing to carry across. You can let all of it go. So let your body grow heavy now, and let the bed hold all of your weight. Let your breathing slow on its own, without your help, in and gently out. Let the thoughts of the day, whatever they were, grow soft and far away and unimportant, drifting off like clouds you no longer need to watch. There is nothing left to understand tonight. There is nowhere you need to be but here, and no one you need to be but yourself, resting. The whole long day is behind you now, and the quiet country of sleep is just ahead, and all you have to do is let yourself drift, slowly, softly, toward it. Sleep well, dream whatever you dream, and I'll be here again, whenever you'd like a little company on the way down into the dark. Good night, and rest now. Rest.